friends, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. This is Anne from the blog hiddenfarmlife.com. Today I am making beef tallow. Now you might ask yourself, what is tallow and why are you making it? Basically, beef tallow is beef fat. This is from a local farm. These are approximately half-pound packages, and they were so gracious, they've already ground this up. So when you go to render any kind of fat, like pig fat into lard or beef fat, or sometimes this is referred to as suet, into tallow, you need to cut it up into very small chunks so that you are able to render it. So I'm going to be using the Instant Pot today. I don't have a normal slow cooker. You could do this in a slow cooker or you could do this on the stove in a big stock pot. I'm going to use my Instant Pot. I can plug it in and leave it. I'm going to stir it probably every 30 minutes or so. I'm also going to be doing something called the wet method. Now you can render fat in two different ways. You can do a wet method or a dry method. The wet method helps it to not stick, for one thing, and then we're going to be also doing something purifying the fat. The dry method, you just put your fat into the pot or your Instant Pot or your slow cooker or whatever, and you turn it on and you let it go and you stir like you would anything else, but you have a higher chance of scorching, and I don't want to scorch this. So I'm going to open these packages, and this is, like I said, from a local farm. The other thing I want you to be aware of, and this is super important, is that your beef fat is grass-fed and grass-finished, because that has the most nutrition in it for any kind of fat. We're not going to be using this particular tallow for food. I'm going to be using this to make a tallow balm. As some of you remember from previous videos, I have a condition called eczema. It's a skin condition, and I have breakouts once in a while, and I'm currently, I don't know if you can see this, this one has gotten bigger and bigger. I also have one on my leg, and the ones on my eyes continue to pop up here and there. I have been using the soap that we made, the sheep's milk soap, on my face recently. I started doing that in the last 2 weeks, and the eczema on my eyes has been quelled, so that's a plus. I'm really happy about that. So now I want to create a beef tallow to make this balm. So this is actually going to be a two-part video. Today we're just doing the rendering process, so let's get started. So now that I have my approximately 2 pounds of beef fat in my Instant Pot, I'm going to set my Instant Pot to slow cook, and I'm going to do it, I'm going to start with an hour, and I'm going to adjust to low, and we'll see how it goes from there if it takes a whole hour, because these are in half-pound blocks, and they're ground up into little pieces, so it really shouldn't take long. To the tallow, or beef suet, I'm going to add some salt. And what the salt is going to do, and I'm just going to add, for this amount of fat, you know, this much, the salt helps to pull out the impurities from your fat, because there's no way when at the butcher where they're processing the meat that you get your fat from, there's no way to completely render that fat free of muscle tissue and the other things that are associated with fat. I'm also going to put, what's this, probably 2 cups about of water. Remember, we're doing the wet method, and my fat's already starting to render. So we're going to start with this, and I'm going to go ahead and stir it probably every 30 minutes just to make sure everything's heating evenly. The reason I'm doing it in the Instant Pot is because it can maintain a constant temperature. If I do it on the stove, it's going to have to be checked more frequently. This way I can putter around the house and come back and check it when I need to. So I will bring you back when I stir it, sorry for the puppy noise, and show you that it's starting to render in the process. So stay tuned. Okay, I wanted to switch to handheld to show you. I want to show you the Instant Pot, so let me turn you around. Look at that. It has been, what, 5 minutes, and look how much has rendered already. So this really won't take long at all. I mean, it's still pretty solid, but all of this has rendered already. And like I said, being in the Instant Pot, it will keep it at a constant temperature. So yeah, and it's been 5 minutes. So we'll continue on until it's completely rendered. And here we are at 30 minutes. And as you can see, most of the solids are at the bottom. And this tallow, for the most part, I would say has been rendered, but I am going to let it go the full 60 minutes just to make sure. And we'll come back in 30. So we have hit, I don't know if you can see that, 0. It's actually keeping it warm, so I'm going to turn the Instant Pot off. It has completely rendered down. So I'm going to take my spoon out, and I'm going to now strain. It's the first straining. I'm going to strain the rendered beef fat. I have a sieve, and then I put a organic cotton towel over top of that to strain out all of the larger chunks that are in there. And then we're going to, there's another step to this, so let me strain this and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm going to zoom you in. Can you see? Fix the camera for you. This is the rendered beef fat, and it's got that golden color to it. And I'm going to now put this in the fridge and let it solidify. And what will happen is the tallow will get to be a solid and the water will be caught underneath. And that salt that we put into the fat when we were rendering it will help to purify this. And then what we'll do is when this is solid, we'll drain off that water, which will have the impurities in it. And then we will render this again and do the same thing, add water and salt to make sure all of the impurities are out before we have our pure tallow. So as you can see, the tallow is now solid, and it's been, I don't know, probably a couple of hours it took in the fridge for this to solidify. So I'm going to take this out of the bowl and discard the water that's underneath. And I have washed out the Instant Pot, and I'm going to re-render this tallow and repeat what I did before, some salt and water, to make sure that all of the impurities are out. So I'll show you that coming up next. So I wanted to show you the water. See the water, how it looks a little brown? That's the remaining impurities in the tallow. I cut the cake into 2 pieces, and you can see it's pretty pure looking. So I'm going to go ahead and break that into quarters. And it's still a bit soft at this point, but solid enough for me to handle it. And I'm going to put those back in the Instant Pot and put it on slow cook for probably 30 minutes this time, because it's already rendered and it won't take as long as it did the first time when we were rendering it down from the fat and the tissues. So let's go ahead and set the Instant Pot to go on slow cook and get rid of this water and wash it out, because we're going to repeat that too. So it's only been 7 minutes, if you can see that. Actually now it says 8 minutes, and look, I'll move the camera. It is completely, the beef fat, the tallow is completely rendered again, but I'm going to let it go for the whole 30 minutes just to try to ensure that it's completely rendered. And then like I said, I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to pour it into I'm going to strain it again through the cloth and the strainer into the bowl and refrigerate it so that the tallow becomes solid and it separates from the water. And then hopefully this time the water will have less impurities in it and be a little bit clearer. So I'll show you that when it's finished. Okay, the tallow has finished rendering for the second time. I'm going to repeat with the strainer and the same towel, just a clean side of the towel. I'm going to go ahead and you want to look at that. I don't know if you can see that. It's a nice golden color. Let me push this back a little bit. Go ahead and pour that. I'm not expecting there to be much, if any, impurities this time, but since I'm using this as a balm, I really want to make sure that it's completely pure. So that's why I'm doing this two-step process. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, the water just came out that time. The water settles to the bottom. The tallow will rise and the water goes to the bottom. So we'll see when this finishes straining how many impurities we have this time. I'm thinking almost none. Yeah, it's almost done. And as you can see, that's the remaining tallow that needs to go through. And this is what's left. So that was pretty pure tallow to begin with. I'm glad we did that first one. Obviously, we needed to render it. But this second one just verifies that everything else is out. So we're gonna go ahead and put that in the sink. Now we have our second time rendered tallow. I'm going to put this in the fridge and let it solidify again so that the tallow can separate from the water. Okay, friends, here is the tallow, the final product. This was after the second purification, and I had it in the fridge, and you can see it's movable now. And I'm just going to push this out of the bowl, and at the bottom of the bowl is going to be the water, and as you can see, it's clear. So, and there is 0 impurities left. So now I have a 100% pure beef tallow cake to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this up into slices to store it. And it doesn't, I mean, when you're storing this, it does not have to be in any particular shape, size. I'm actually going to put the tallow that I don't use back into the freezer so that it keeps, but it doesn't even smell. There might be a slight, it smells good, like it smells slightly of butter. And I also wanted to talk about how you might see sometimes people who have tallow, and I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera, it's almost white, and that's fine. This tallow is actually pretty yellow, and that is because the cows that this beef fat came from were grass-fed, and grass-fed is what you want, grass-fed and grass-finished. So when you buy tallow products, when you buy tallow that's already been rendered, you really want to be careful and make sure that it's from animals that were obviously ethically treated and humanely butchered and processed, but also that they were grass-fed and grass-finished. The problem that could occur if you use an animal fat that is grain-fed is that sometimes it could possibly cause inflammatory issues with your skin, because you can't control, you know, if those grains were GMO or non-GMO. So I go for the grass-fed, grass-finished. So stay tuned for part 2, where we actually melt this down again, this tallow down again, and make our tallow balm moisturizer. So stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Remember to subscribe. Bye-bye.